Hello and welcome to another episode of the Super Soul Model Series. I'm your host, James Granström, and thank you so much for tuning in today. Today's topic, I'm going to be talking about why consistency is of great value. Consistency is of value because how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're consistent at being a good cook, taking care, washing your vegetables, for instance, preparing the table, what that is that builds a habit, and people, after a while, if you do that over and over and over again through repetition, what that does is that builds a trait or a characteristic that you have. And then people will know that when it comes to dinner time, and if you're in charge, that's how it's going to be. When I was younger, my dad used to be incredibly punctual. He was on time, if not always just a little bit early. And I've noticed that one of my sisters is exactly the same as him. And my other sister is also exactly like him in that sense. Always on time, always punctual, always a little early. Now, when I was a kid, because I'm the youngest, I was a little rebellious. So I wanted to do exactly everything the opposite. So I wouldn't be on time. I would, there's so many things. You can laugh at my pain, but for years I wasn't online. Mid-20s. It was only when someone called me out in my mid-20s, someone said, listen, you're not on time. And now that's something that I really hold true to me. Being on time and being punctual is really important to me. And it's something that I worked at consciously. It became a habit, being on time. And I worked at it because you be consistent at small things, baby steps all the time. Saying you're going to meet someone at a certain time and doing it, executing it, is a big deal, because how you do anything is how you do everything. If you're on time for your relationships and you say you're going to be there. And if not, drop them a text just before. These simple little subliminal messages that you share with the world about how you roll and what you're consistent in, people pick up. They're like, such and such is always on time. James is always on time. In fact, James is always just a little bit early. When someone says that to me, I'm always really appreciate that, because I know it's something that I worked at, and it is easy to do. It is easy to do, but it just takes consistency. It just takes practice. A lot of my life, I felt I was very unconscious about so many things, so many habits, so many bad habits that I had, whether it be drinking, smoking, partying, although they were fun. They caused me a lot of emotional imbalance, caused me a lot of pain. Didn't know if I was up or down, didn't know if I was high or depressed. And that's no way to live. And that's when I first started meditating. Basically what that did was the consistency of meditation allowed my vibe to naturally rise. And then I became accustomed to this sort of natural high. And anything less than that natural high just won't do for me. So that's why meditation is so great, for allowing you to tap in. But if you don't go to the gym, if you don't meditate regularly, you're not going to see the difference. You're not going to experience the difference in that consistent form. If you go to the gym 3 days a week, it's a huge difference between someone who goes to the gym 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and 5 days a week. I mean, you're looking at professional athletes. They are practicing all the time. They're repeatedly being consistent at what they do, and that is why they're a pro athlete. That is why they're the best of the best. And you can do that too. I'm not saying you can necessarily be a professional athlete, although some of my younger viewers, you can watch that and you can understand some of the psychology that's behind it. Yes, talent is everything, but it's repeated consistency and excellence through repetition, which is what helps build that characteristic, what helps build those habits, what helps build that skill that you can do over and over again. You watch footballers, they practice over and over again to do those trick shots. Like I watch Roger Federer do his trick shots over and over again. Even though he's been in quarantine right now, he's still practicing those trick shots over and over again. And yes, they can come naturally, but you still have to exercise them. You still repeatedly do them, because you never know when you need those tricks if you're an athlete in this instance. Now, in the sense that when I was saying to you earlier, learning to be consistent about being on time, being punctual, what that is, that message is subliminal, saying when I'm on time, You know, I'm in integrity. I said what I'm going to do and I'm on time. And people respect you, they appreciate you, and then they know from your character that you're a genuine person and you mean business. Because when you execute what you say you're going to do, what that means is you're saying to the world, hey world, listen up. I said what I'm going to do. I mean it. And, you know, it's a real gift to share that sense of integrity with the world. And consistency is how you go about doing it. Now, I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe Dispenza has written quite a couple of really brilliant books. He wrote a book about 2013 or so called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And Dr. Joe really just talked about that most people are unconscious when it comes to their habits. You learn, obviously, most of your skills between about the ages of 3 and 9 or 3 and 10 or something, he says in his book. And that's because you're sponging all the information about how the adults in your life deal with everything. And your young mind is susceptible to these young programs through emotion and through watching about how your parents or your guardians or whoever's bringing you up in the world, how they liaise and interact with life. That's why you're saying, I'm more like my mum, or you're more like your dad. You picking up those traits from your parents. And that is why you spent maybe more time with your mum or more time with your dad, and you're picking up those traits. That's what you do. And it's very interesting, like the psychology behind it. But you can break that pattern anytime you like when the pain is too much. In order to change and use consistency for what it is, let the pain in your life, whatever it is going on, maybe it's a breakup, maybe it's a business change, maybe it's a health change, maybe whatever change it is that you are seeking, let that pain that you're experiencing in your life in some way, shape or form, allow that, find a solution for it and become consistent. All the habits that you've acquired up until now, up until a certain age, are programs that you repeatedly do. For instance, like driving. You learned how to drive. You learned how to drive. Initially, it was like very awkward and you were very concerned about your environment in the car, driving, indicating, looking in the mirror, noticing, you know, the curbs and all the other people on the road. But whilst that information was being downloaded and you were learning it, it was the repetition and the consistency of doing the driving, doing the tests, doing the practicing, which was what helped build that skill. So you see, in order to change anything, you just have to change first what you're thinking, and then secondly, how you're going to approach it and the actions that you can take. Buddha said a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. And what he really means is that every step that you take in the direction of where you want to go is essentially a sense of consistency. So I love the Buddha for that, because consistency is what helps drive you in the direction that you want to go. Now, conversely, it can also drive you in a direction you don't want to go. And trust me, you know, I've been there myself. I've had so many negative habits. But I've managed to change quite a few of the negative habits that I've had. And I've managed to transform them into something empowering, like being on time, like the meditation that allowed me to let go of drinking, let go of smoking, and let go of like the harming my body unnecessarily, because I didn't know any other way. And it was the meditation that allowed me to shoot right back up to my natural high. And we all have access to it. It's just that not all of us have the same pain threshold. So you only really want to change when the pain is too much. And that is why consistency with action will always equal successful results, as long as the action that you take is positive. Now, for instance, you're wanting to work out, you're wanting to take the gym. I watched a great YouTube video probably a couple of months ago, shortly before quarantine anyway. There was this Chinese lady who transformed her body in probably about, 6 months or so. And she was very overweight and she got dumped by her husband and she felt incredibly depressed. But you know what she did? She took action. The pain that she obviously felt, and then she documented time-lapse YouTube videos of her working out and practicing. She was so consistent that she transformed her body from being very overweight to looking incredible. But she changed, and that time-lapse video was incredible because whilst you are so appreciating the action and consistency that she's taking, that's why it's of great value. You didn't understand her drive of why she was doing it. And that's what leads me to this point. The why of why you want to change and create new habits and create a life of consistency and create a life of satisfaction, happiness, health, well-being and wealth and prosperity. That creates different thinking with different strategies for success, and you need to be consistent at them to get the results that you want. Everything that you repeatedly do with excellence and consistency will become a habit, and that's exactly what Dr. Joe Dispenza is saying in his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Yes, there are some programs that you've learned from your parents that are absolutely brilliant, that you are probably living out today, and then there will also be things and habits that you have that aren't so good. So you just have to look at what in your life is causing you pain, and then you're going to have to take some action on it, and then find the solution for it, and then apply consistency. Like Buddha said, the journey of 1,000 miles takes a single step. And it's usually very daunting taking on a new challenge, taking a new step in a direction that you've never been before, because it's so easy, because the body's addicted to the chemicals of the past. It's addicted to those unconscious programs that we've learned as kids. And what we're trying to do is change those programs by creating new ones. Now, you can't just stop one, you've got to just start another, because the nerve wires that fire together wire together. So these ones are just going to be creating habits over and over again, characteristics that you've had over and over again. When I started meditating, I broke the pattern of who I used to be and changed who I was now becoming, which was healthy, happy, successful. And that was so important to me, because what I was doing before was really causing me so much pain. And now, not to say that I haven't caused pain to other people, obviously, but what I'm saying is that the more that you are breaking the habit of what you were like, to start creating a level of consistency in a positive new direction, beautiful things will come. Beautiful things will come about with that journey of the first step. Consistency is very much the same as repetition, because repetition is how our human bodies learn. First, we need to absorb the information. Then second of all, we need to take the actions. And third of all, if we repeatedly do that over and over again, it becomes a habit. Now, most people think habits take 21 days. In my personal experience, I think it takes about 3 months, because after about 3 months, which is 12 weeks, roughly 90 days, there's something in the numerology term of 9, which means it's the end of a cycle, which means you've absorbed so much information. I did a 12-week gym program and I got myself in phenomenal shape. And now I still know to this day everything I did in that 3-month program that I did to get myself in shape. And everything that I've learned is based on utilizing how long it took me to create a new habit from something. Consistency is very much the same as repetition, and our bodies love to learn through repetition. It would be great if we could just do one thing once and we'd be able to do it over and over again, but that's not how our body works. Our body is conditions response, and nerve cells that fire together wire together. And what that really means is the more you do something over and over and over and over and over again, the more you build that habit, the more that these nerve cells join together, and initially they start firing just like a small string of light to one another, receptors. But then after a while, they can grow into like much thicker motorways, and that's how that's what's happening in the brain. That's what's happening in your brain. So all those positive attributes that you have, all those brilliant, consistent habits that you have, that's what's going on inside your mind. And all the negative habits that you have, that's what's happening in your brain. And you can interrupt that pattern by choosing differently. You just say, I'm going to decide, which means decide comes from the Latin word desere, which means to cut off. So when you cut off, it means it's not necessarily cutting those nerve cells firing together. It just means you're going to light up something else. And that's why in order to stop something, you can't just say stop to your brain. You've got to just look at something else, because your brain needs something new to focus on. So every time you focus on something new, like the new direction of where you want to go, the new destination of where you want to go, that is what helps create the successful habit. Successful habits are pretty easy to get going, but you just need to get started, as Buddha said. Just start with the first step, baby steps every day, something in direction. Now, I want to tell you a little story. Quite a few years ago, I started realizing that I was using my right hand for literally everything. And when I was a kid, I was very ambidextrous. I could, play sports with my left hand, and I draw with my left hand. And then as I sort of, grew up and went to school, that wasn't the case, and I was just leaning far more on the right hand for sports and everything. And I'd stopped using the left hand pretty much for everything. And when I started learning about the whole brainness, like using both hemispheres of the brain, I thought to myself, well, this is very lopsided. I'm way relying on more the right hand side, which is the left hand side, which is the logical side. So I started learning. I said to myself, I'm going to brush my teeth with my left hand. That's just one thing I can do every day. It's a small little action I can take. But if I brush my teeth with my left hand consistently, then maybe that might start using different hemispheres of my brain, balancing out my brain from it being far too more logical than creative. And then just maybe I might see different results in my life. Now, at the beginning, I was absolutely terrible at brushing my teeth with my left hand. I was literally brushing it all over my face. My hand would sort of make this strange claw thing, because essentially I was still pretending that I was holding on to a toothbrush. Anyway, my brain was not quite sure what was going on. But I've kept at it, and I've been doing that since 2005 every day. Now, about after 6 to 8 weeks, probably thereabouts, I could brush my teeth really well. And you know what I do now? I shave with my left hand as well. And I realized that the other day, unconsciously, when I just picked up a razor with my left hand and had a shave, and I realized, I was like, oh, I've just shaved with my left hand. I've been doing it for so long, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And that is the power of consistency. Yes, I was consciously aware that I was now brushing my teeth with my left hand, 15 years ago, but now I was unconsciously being able to pick up a razor, shave my face with my left hand, and not even know that I'd done it until I put it away and gone, oh my God, I'm actually shaving with my left hand. So, and then I remember once cutting up carrots or something like that with my left hand. Now, that is not something I'd ever do before. Now, I still prefer to use my right hand, but it meant that I was accessing different areas of my brain, and it was strong enough. I'd built such a strong nerve cells that fire together, wire together, that I was just able to do something else that I had not previously been doing. Now, if there's any area of your life that's a little out of balance, try doing something else. Like try the left-hand toothbrush. It really works. Now, am I good at writing with my left hand at the moment? No, not so much. However, I found that it's absolutely fascinating brushing your teeth with your left hand. It's a simple exercise you can do, and if you apply it consistently, you get a good result. And I'm all about guinea pigging on myself. I'm all about trying to find out new ways about how to open up new areas of the brain, how to get the best out of ourselves. And we get the best out of ourselves by being consistent at good things, at positive habits, at creating new habits. But you're never going to change those habits, because most people won't until the pain is too much. So when the pain is too much, that's when you can break the pattern. That's when you can start something anew. That's maybe when it's time to have a look at working towards a new job and chip away at it. Some people say, oh, write a page a day to write a book, and in a year you'll have 365 pages. That's a book. That's what I'm talking about. A little page a day, a toothbrush a day, meditation a day. Just keep these new little habits going, and you just won't know what will come out of it. But I can guarantee you, if you're consistent, you will reap benefits you won't even know. Like when I first started meditating, I didn't know the results I was going to get. It's just through my own experience that I've experienced these incredible benefits that have happened, and it's all down to having a level of consistency. Now, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's money, relationships, health. Just find something you can be consistent in to look at and start changing your patterns by being consistent at something every single day. Like working out in the gym, for me, I'm working out at least 5 times a week. I do lots of cardio, HIIT, yoga, stretching, swimming. I love mixing it up, and then isometric stuff as well. Whatever it takes, but as you are consistent, your body will thrive. As you're consistent with meditation, your clarity of mind and creativity will rise, and you'll feel so much happier. And when you're consistent at something, that becomes your characteristic, and that's what people warm to. When people know that you have positive traits, people love to be around that because you have created that yourself. And when you do it consciously, you're creating a new human being within yourself. You're not just relying on those unconscious patterns that you've learned from your parents. Some of those things that you learned from your parents, no doubt, will be amazing, but some of them you will want to change and want to rectify, but you can do it consciously by being consistent. So be consciously consistent at heading in the direction you want to go, and you will make positive change. Positive change takes repetition. It takes consistency, and you've got to have a reason why you want to do it. And usually it's when the pain is too much, you'll want to change. Unless you can do it because you're thinking, do you know what? I just need something different. I want to try something different purely for the fun of it. That's also a great way, but your why has to be strong enough. Some new things and new habits that I've been working on, quite interestingly enough, is that every day I'm doing something towards my podcasts or music or something that I'm sending out into the world. I'm doing something every single day, and I find that fascinating because as I'm exercising that, I'm building that level of consistency within myself, and as I do that, my business starts to attract more and more customers. My work starts to become more finely tuned. Opportunities start to come in when you're more and more consistent. So be consistent. Being consistent to some people may seem really boring, but do you know what? Reliability is a great gift to have, and integrity is a great character to own. And all of these things from being consistent can help you out in your health, prosperity, and your relationships in magnificent ways. But it's all up to you and your reason why you want to do it. Now, I just wanted to say one thing. I've just finished watching this amazing documentary called The Last Dance with Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. And I remember reading a quote, I love quotes, and I remember reading a quote by Michael Jordan, and it was something like, it was something to do with the amount of baskets that he shoots. And he goes, practice is what makes me be able to get the hoop over and over again. And he used to practice in his mind shooting and getting those swooshes straight in the hoop over and over and over again, but also the amount of losses of them not going in. But he goes, every shot I take is a step heading in the right direction. And he's now considered pretty much the greatest basketball player of all time. And that was due to his work ethic and his level of consistency. His why was so huge. And his why was something to do with he wanted to show to his family, and especially his dad, that he was the best. Now, not everybody's necessarily got that drive, but you'll find that there's something in there for you. When you can find your reason why, let that leverage you and let that inspire you to go out and wanting to make positive change. And the way to do that is just be consistent, often and small and regular and repetitious. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope there's been some insight in there for you today. If you've got any questions, please write in on Instagram, and I'd be delighted to answer any of your questions, or you can write obviously below the video here on YouTube. I love talking about consistency, and I love talking about creating new habits that really work, because the body is basically essentially carrying around all these unconscious programs. But if you'd like to change the programs, you can update them by being consistent, first of all, with your new thinking and more empowered thinking, and following up with the habits. Because when you do what you say you're going to do, you're in integrity, and that is where your power lies. Thank you for tuning in. I'm James Granström, and as always, I wish you green lights all the way.